Nice
Ladies
to
and
meet
gentlemen,
you.
we are live, and this is the Blood Boilers. This is your host, Gary White. I'm hijacking the fucking show from Zach Jones, so I want to introduce my good friend, Mr. Walraven from Parts Unknown in northern Michigan. How you doing?
Not bad, man. Just wolf hunting.
Very nice, very nice. And from Sandusky, Ohio, we have Zach Jones.
Hands up, don't shoot, sorry. Pressed the wrong button. Pressed
The
the wrong
wolf
button.
himself. Of course, it's a very special edition, the post-electocalypse coverage we have
Oh, yeah. Good
af-
name.
after the big red sweep. Well, what do you think, guys? Why? What happened? What happened?
It's
Why
good
do
for
Democrats
America.
suck so bad?
Because Obama.
They're weak. They're weak.
Well,
You know what?
I think that's a good point, actually. I mean, the Republicans sell any message that they put enough money behind. Why can't the Democrats sell the message that President Obama isn't that bad?
Maybe because he is.
I mean, you have unemployment.
He has a lot of
Unemployment
short.
is lowest in like 9 years or whatever. Gas prices are low.
Mm-hmm.
Stock market's up.
Mm-hmm.
What do people want?
Wages, you know what's not up? Wages. In 15 years.
Yeah.
I don't believe the unemployment numbers. Do you? I didn't even believe when Bush was pushing them out.
Well,
I mean,
okay, so the unemployment numbers,
food's up.
Scott, I kind of have to agree with you on the unemployment numbers, and I think we do a disservice to ourselves the way we measure unemployment. We measure it
Oh,
using people who are actively searching for work
right.
And-
That's absurd.
and who can't find and who are not employed. We don't look at the number of. I mean, we do actually track this number. However, it doesn't get as much press coverage. We don't look at the people who are underemployed, so people who have part-time jobs but want full-time jobs. People who are not getting paid what is the market rate for their degree, what their training and their education is in. And we don't look at the number of people who have just given up altogether. So
Well, let me
if
pose it.
you're unemployed and you give up, you are now technically in what they call the jobless category, and in the jobless category, they don't count you. They don't count that towards unemployment.
not.
They only count people who are actively searching for work but don't have work.
Well, I mean, okay, is America better off now than it was 6 years ago before Obama took over?
No.
I don't know about that.
No.
And
Not.
even if they're
It's the
not,
same.
even if they're not, Republicans are able
Where's
to tell the people that.
where's the minimum wage? Where's the minimum wage increase? They had the whole government for 2 years. Where are all the? I'm not even going to put the jobs on the government. I'm really not. That's a private sector thing. But like, where's the wage increase? I'm making $9.50 an hour. Or full time. Like, that's absurd. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I made more 15 years ago when I was 19 years old. I mean, what? And then they want immigration. They want to give all these people all the citizenship. They want more people. Don't close the border. Why? So wages stay low for
Mhm.
the corporations who brought them in. Nothing has changed.
Well,
Nothing.
set aside truth. I mean, if Republicans sell that climate change isn't real, why can't Democrats sell that Obama's good?
And
Because he's not.
well, here's the thing. Obama missed a huge right after he passed the Affordable Care Act, what everyone calls Obamacare. He missed a golden opportunity to sell that government service. Instead, what he did is quite often forced into defending it rather than selling it, and he took a defensive approach rather than an offensive approach, and a lot of people criticize him for doing this, and that's where he lost a lot of his momentum as coming in as the first black president, coming in just winning off the Nobel Peace Prize, making pretty good strides on healthcare, making pretty good strides on. At the time, he had made good strides on closing Guantanamo Bay, on ending Afghanistan and Iraq. He had at least made those promises and signed those deals. Now, we didn't actually follow through with a lot of that stuff, but he had great momentum, and then he decided he thought his momentum alone would carry the message that Obamacare was good, instead of getting out there and pushing and selling this. And he just made a poor political blunder. And after that, it's rare that Americans vote out incumbents. I mean, the reason Bush Sr. was voted out was only because Ross Perot ran. If Ross Perot would have run, Bush Sr. would have won a second term.
Plus Bill Clinton played a means saxophone on our city hall. So.
Yeah, and didn't inhale and talked about his underwear on MTV. He was kind of a joke when people were like, "Oh, this fool's never going to win." But if it wasn't for Ross Perot spoiling it for the Republicans, we would have had another incumbent then. And so what I'm trying to say is that incumbents rarely ever lose. That's why Obama won a second term. It's not because he was a better candidate.
That's a good point, because there's people like me who are for the Affordable Care Act, but you got him, and then you got Nancy Pelosi making one of the stupidest comments in American history. We got to pass it so we know what's in it. Like, don't give away your hand that you're a corporate stooge in front of everyone.
Right.
Like,
good point.
but I mean, he really could have been like, "This is incredibly good for the people." Instead, he didn't.
Well, and how many citizens didn't get to see how good it was, or what the facts were? Because
when you tell people, like, oh, this is a tax, not a penalty. Like, we're not stupid. We're not retarded. Like, I don't have health insurance.
Well,
so
for instance, I live in Georgia, and the governor, we turned down the expansion of Medicare, so people were not able to experience the effects of Obamacare fully.
Well, no. What you guys turned down, what you turned down is not the actual Obamacare. What was turned down was the public exchanges. There was some funding that came along to set up websites, so each state could do their own website for the healthcare exchange. And a lot of states turned that down because they thought it'd be repealed, and they're like, "Well, why spend this money if it's going to get if this law is going to get overturned by the Supreme Court?" They were trying to hedge their bets. Michigan did this too, and the federal government said, "Well, if you don't set up an exchange, your citizens have to use the national exchange instead of the statewide exchange." And so the citizens of the state weren't out any if their governor decided not to do this. It's just they had to rely on the national, and the national is the one that kept collapsing all the time when it first started going off. When it was first made live, it kept shutting down and whatnot.
Well, am I retarded, or they put down an expansion of Medicare that would have covered a lot more Americans under Medicare? Didn't that happen, or am I just making that up?
No, so they did expand it. The expansion of Medicare. So what they did is that portion is available to people who use. There's a portion that the state has to provide for, and then there was a portion that was optional for the state to provide, and that optional that additional optional amount, if they did provide it for that, they'd get a break from the government, from the federal government, and a subsidy to help pay for that. So pretty much what they did is turn down the subsidy for the additional. So say a state had to do, say they had 3 million people who traditionally got Medicaid and Medicare. The government said, okay, now you have to add an additional 500,000, 500,000, and then we'd like you to also add an additional, on top of that, another 500,000. So there you have a total of a new 1 million people in your state. And what the states had to do was the first 500,000, but they didn't have to do the second 500,000. So it did expand in every state. It just didn't expand at the rate that the federal government had originally desired.
You know, there was one thing that came to mind. Certainly, it was a complete repudiation of Obama. No matter what side you stand on, I mean, you'd have to be a fool not to think that. And second, maybe I was thinking it's people, maybe our age and younger, you too, Zach, that
We'll group you in.
that
Yeah,
are like
we'll group you in.
I'm hoping maybe that even older people are like, you guys are paid for, and we're just done with it. I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe this is a huge, monstrous swing. I put something. I don't think my Wunderlist is tapped into the one you guys are in because I haven't used it in a while. But this is since 1920, this is the most Republicans have had in state legislatures overall. Like seats.
Yeah,
power.
for states, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
And
that's really important because for me and actually for the political structure, states are vitally important. People overlook that because of the national news.
Well,
But states are structurally vital.
I think that's a good point, Scott, because all the services that I use come from the state. Very few of the services I use come from the federal government. The VA comes from the federal government. I use that. But outside of that, everything else comes from the state. My roads, my schools, my job, the police that protect my streets, the fire department that will put out a fire if my wife leaves her curling iron on, things like that, all come from the state. It doesn't come from the federal government, and so state elections are extremely important, and we're going to start seeing some major shifts nationwide. I do want to point out, though, that the midterm elections of a second-term president over the past, I think, 5 elections or 6 elections where there's been a second-term president have all gone to the opposite party.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's
another huge smackdown. Started Clinton.
That's another point that just bodes to the fact that these people are owned, not by us, and people don't realize it. How stupid are the general masses? Like even the most of the people who vote. Like everything keeps flip-flopping and switching, and what changes? What happens? We have the Affordable Care Act, thank God, but that's it. What else has changed? What else has honest to God changed?
You know what?
Wages haven't changed. Wages need to change. Obama had 2 years and more to do anything about it, and he didn't do shit.
We can go back to that, but while we're talking about state politics, I just want to mention one thing real quick. When I cast my ballot for my state representative, I can choose between the Republican or the Republican. And so I'm thinking, what if I just ran as a fucking libertarian or Tea Party, whatever, even though that's not what I buy into. What if I just ran, And so I started looking into how you run for, a state rep. And these people in the county, the district that I live in, are making like $20-some thousand a year. I would literally take almost a 50% pay cut if I decided to become a state representative.
Yeah, but are you a full-time? Are they full-time representatives?
Come on, are any representatives full-time? But where am I going to find a job that just operates outside the legislative session?
Right.
Yeah,
Well, that's easy.
I don't know when your legislative session is, and I think a lot of states, they don't have the same schedule. Here in Michigan, they're full-time legislature, but ours get paid, I think, $65,000, so they get paid pretty decent.
But don't you think a state representative should at least make, say, $40,000 a year? Because otherwise, only a rich person can afford to be a state rep. Somebody that already has money and doesn't need to make money.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's a big problem. And a lot of I don't know how I actually feel about this because I've never really broken it down or spent any time having it over. But there's a lot of people who want a part-time legislature.
Yeah.
They want, and I'm talking at the state level. They want a part-time legislature. They want term limits.
Federal level.
And then the argument is though that the problem is you get all these novices who don't know how to run states, who come in with all these ideologies, and they end up creating a polarized House or Senate because they're in there for such a short time. They want to prove to their constituents that they're awesome. That way they can run for Senate, or they can eventually run for federal Congress or federal Senate. And I don't know. I think
state representatives should at least make the medium household income of Americans.
But you know what they shouldn't do? They should never get a raise for 15 straight years. Their wages should never raise for 15 years.
I am fine if their wages were to raise at the rate of inflation. Whatever inflation is,
I mean, the average household income for Americans is like maybe $53,000. So how about it's always the average
for a household? You said?
Yeah, the household income.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about one person making that wage, but yeah, $53,000. That's hell. I'd be happy if I made that much. I don't make that much, but for a state rep, that's fair.
It is. Well, and you want them paid enough that the corporate kickbacks don't have to be too high, because then, then they're just out of control.
Then we're putting all these businesses out of business because they got to pay all these congressmen.
So does anybody here? I never thought of this until I got my. This is one of the biggest ballots I've ever. Maybe not. I just don't remember. But it was a big ballot in Michigan. It was at least I don't know. It was pretty long. I guess I just vote every time, and last time was not very long. But
what did you have on your ballot? I'm sure you had some local stuff like county and.
We did. We had a school proposal which passed, thank God. Otherwise, I'd have gone like suicide bombing. We had a mining dispatch thing. But other than that, we had the wolf hunting and the NRC biology thing for proposal 2.
Now,
which none of those two are completely.
Scott,
anyway,
you can probably cue me in on this more than I know about it, but I was reading an article about the wolf hunting, and my understanding is that referendum is useless because there's already state law that says the DNR controls what animals you can hunt. Is that correct, or what's the deal on that?
It is. And proposal 2 is almost the same thing as the law that passed. Is the Natural Resources Commission, which is a bunch of biologists and whatever, pretty much just a bunch of scientists, and they decide based on population numbers and
so like the science decide whether you hunt instead of
they decide,
feelings.
It's not like wolves are endangered. I mean, I've seen wolves close up. We have property with sand on it by a river. We see wolves tracks all the time, but they're not endangered. They're off the list, I don't care if I don't care if people shoot them or not. But people up there are going to take care of them whether we pass a law or not, And I just seen a thing that the Michigan United Conservation Club put out as a map of the 52 counties that voted for it, and 31 or something voted against it. It's something like that. You'll know the numbers. I think we have 83 counties or 81 or something.
Yeah.
But the majority voted for it, and all of them that voted for it were all of the UP voted for it. That's the only place we have wolves right now. Like, what about listening to citizens minus Gore versus Bush?
Well, I think some people though.
It's really not that important. They are mute.
Is the wolf, the language of those two laws,
the language was terrible.
Proposals were terrible. They're terribly confusing.
Terrible.
And on top of that, the language of the people say that the vote is moot because of an appropriations bill that was passed. That if there's money tied to a particular law, it can't be, which I think is the dumbest constitutional rule we have. But in the state of Michigan, it can't be changed by a ballot proposal, an amendment change. It can't be amended. So congressmen are now adding $5 $5 riders to almost every bill they pass. That way, it can never be challenged constitutionally.
Yeah.
And then, well, not challenged constitutionally, but challenged by a ballot constitutional amendment. So this law, though, is it's preventing, or it's not preventing, it's giving power to this commission or the DNR. Unfortunately, it's kind of vague about who actually has the power, and does this commission have final say, or do they still have to get approval from the legislature after they've made a decision? And I think ultimately the two ballots that were proposed, the two proposals plus the actual law that's in effect, will end up making its way to the Supreme Court, the Michigan Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And this Michigan Supreme Court, even though they're predominantly conservative, they've actually been pretty good about following the rule of law and following the Constitution of Michigan, which is a fairly progressive piece of literature.
Yeah.
So I think it'll get turned down. I think the law will get turned down too because it's too confusing, and then the Congress will have to go back and rewrite it and make it less. The way those
proposals were written were so bad. I could have written them better. I'm not that informed about.
Well, part of the problem is when they do those proposals.
Bad.
When they do those proposals, what they have to do is, so say someone gets the 250,000 people necessary that sign the petition, right, to get it on the ballot proposal.
Well, they're taking a lot of time on their hands.
And then it goes to the election commission, who then decide whether it should be put on the ballot or not. If they agree that they certify it and there are actually 250,000 or maybe it's 300,000, I can't remember what it is, signatures, and they agree to put it on the ballot, then it goes to a second commission, and that second commission is split evenly of Democrats and Republicans, regardless of whether the petition is a liberal or conservative measure. That second commission has to agree upon wording, and so even if the petition doesn't, so now Republicans, if it's a liberal issue, now Republicans have a say in how it's actually worded on the ballot, and they intentionally try to make it as confusing as possible.
It's actually not a bad idea because, I read some of it. I'm like, man, this is favorable to the people who want to save these dogs, But it's strange though because it really, irregardless of what happens on this issue, I mean, there's a lot up there. There's not many deer. People are all worried about these wolves. They don't realize how many deer they kill. Nobody cares about the deer. They just went through a terrible winter, one of the worst in state history recorded. And, I mean, there's not very many deer left.
Well, there's thousands of deer up there, and there's only 620 wolves. So
more wolves than that. There's no.
I mean, that's the official count from DNR.
Sure there is. That's official count. But I mean, either way, even if whatever the count is, people up there are just gonna shoot them in the gut and let them run and die. So it's not like it really matters if there's a season or not. I personally don't mind them. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, when I lived up there, I had friends that owned property, and they'd drive around the back of their pickup and shoot fucking deer from their, from the truck as they're driving by and shit. Nobody
gives Mitch McConnell. Look at that.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell.
That's a piece of art right there. That's a fucking cap walking rifle right there.
Did you guys see when he was casting his vote, the guy that was behind him?
That was gonna be. I was thinking about using that picture.
The guy behind him is like this. He's like, man. He's got a real ugly face on. He's like,
something I want to mention while you guys drone on about Michigan politics. I don't know if you've been following the Georgia Senate run, but Michelle Nunn, who
Might I add, just for 1 second, that he's not carrying Kentucky long rifle.
yeah, thank you for adding that. But anyway, for
American.
the Georgia Senate race was between Michelle Nunn and David Perdue. Michelle Nunn was a Democrat who was headed the George H.W. Bush's Points of Light Foundation, and every commercial they ran showed this. They played the scary music with the picture of George, her standing next to Obama, Of course, this picture was taken at a fundraiser for the Points of Light Foundation for George H.W.'s foundation, right? So this is the worst thing they could put up against her. Now, David Perdue owned, he was the CEO of
Black people?
Pillowtex, which was this textile company in Georgia. And
but they're now in Shangzhou, right?
They weren't making enough money, so yeah, he took all those jobs in Georgia and shipped them over to like Shanghai or Xingzhou or wherever overseas in China. All right, so Georgians were faced with a choice between the woman who was working for George Bush, but had the scary photo that was followed by scary music when she was standing next to President Obama, or this guy that took Georgian jobs and shipped them overseas to China. And when they asked him about it, he said, "I'm proud of my record of shipping jobs overseas."
Now wait a minute.
These were the choices.
You're forgetting the main point. Georgia, white woman next to a black man.
Well, yeah,
Not a good sign for Georgia. Not good for Georgia.
Wait, so Perdue is a black guy?
No, Perdue is lily white CEO businessman. He was CEO of Dollar General. He was CEO of several other companies.
He's got military experience.
Basically, David Perdue made a ton of money by outsourcing jobs from Georgia to China, and then closing the company, and then making a huge severance pay. So not only did he fuck over the Georgians, he also fucked over the Chinese to make even more money. Okay? And then you have Michelle Nunn, who, at the Points of Light Foundation, which is ran by George Bush Sr., happened to be close enough to Obama to take a picture with him. So that's what they had on her. Honest to God, every commercial featured that photo of her next to Obama.
Yeah.
And that's what lost her election.
Our that's how our first that's very eerily similar to our when Snyder ran. When Snyder ran, for the first time he had he was the CEO of Gateway Computers.
Nice.
And he sold off. He broke Gateway up and sold it off to the Chinese and Mexico. And there literally is there's no Gateway anymore. I mean, I think there is a Gateway, but it's a subsidiary of a Chinese corporation, and they don't produce anything anymore. They just hold on to the name. And I
think it's part of the Great Wall.
all those cow boxes. They used all those cow boxes to build finish off the.
They're not making that in India with cow boxes. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And he ran against Burgeo. I can't remember his last name, but he was the mayor of Lansing. Had been a steel worker. Had been a union officer. And he was
somebody who worked for a living.
Yeah, and he had been considered Lansing's best mayor. Had turned around Lansing. Lansing had avoided the housing bubble collapse like the rest of the United States had by barely at rates that were considered spectacular because Virg Bonero pushed through a bunch of citywide tax relief laws, and was very good to business, very good to homeowners, and he was really popular in Lansing. And just because he didn't have millions of dollars, and he happened to know the president of the United States, he didn't win the election.
What? No.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you guys? I mean, we're on a political show. I'm sure nobody really cares. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I mean, what did you guys vote like? I mean, obviously nobody here likes Republicans.
Well, yeah, and here's the problem is this race was so close that I didn't want to. Normally, I vote Green Party, but it was so close this time around that I, believe it or not, it's the first time I've ever done it. I swear to God, I voted straight ticket Democrat, just because there was so much at stake, and that the Republican Party was too far of center for me to deal with. If they were closer to the center, there would have been maybe some candidates that I would have, sided with, but they were just too far of center that I couldn't wrap around any of the Republicans at all. And
I feel that.
but I don't do this. When I vote, if there's only one candidate running, I don't vote for that candidate at all.
I do the same thing.
Because I don't want
my ballot.
I don't want an inflated. I don't want them to get an inflated sense of entitlement that I won with a mandate. Well, you fucking ran by yourself, So.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly did the same thing, and I usually don't. Like, I usually vote for some communists or whatever, whatever. But there really, on my ballot, there really isn't those people. It's I had a lot of people that were unopposed Republicans. I had the Democrat versus Republicans, for governor and Senate, and a lot of unopposed people, a couple libertarians, and I can honestly say the same thing. I usually do vote, the major elections I care about where I've really done the research. I vote for the candidate that I believe in. But for governor, I didn't really care. Jason Carter, I know, he's always wanted to fund education more. I'm a teacher, so, I was going to vote for him. I don't really have a whole lot against Nathan Deal, who was his opponent, but overall I think Carter would serve my interests more. So I voted for Jason Carter. But the one I was pissed off about was Purdue. I couldn't believe people actually voted for a guy that took Georgia jobs and moved them to China. I thought that would be the one election where the Democrats might win in Georgia, and it didn't happen.
Getting no audio.
Yeah.
We can hear you, Ray.
We can hear you, Ray.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Nope.
Yeah, I voted. I vote Libertarian or state law or Green, wherever they're available. And I voted for one Republican, and that was just a local representative, because he's actually a good human being. But I was shocked at the number of libertarians. Almost every single thing I could vote for had libertarians, and I've never seen that level of third party. There was libertarian, state law, Green Party. Not as many Green Parties I wanted, because I will vote for them, especially statewide. But I was shocked.
Green Party has really strict. You can't just go and file to be a Green Party candidate. You actually have to pass an interview process, and you have to write out your platform. And the state committee actually approves it or not before they even allow you to declare yourself a Green Party candidate. So.
And do they provide any campaign funds whatsoever?
No, they don't. None.
Something I want to mention, though, the Republicans were the big winner in the election, but the second big winner was marijuana.
I want to I hear about this. I actually have no idea.
You know, that's a tactic I'm surprised the Democrats didn't use, because
And you know what?
if you put marijuana on the ballot and you put minimum wage on the ballot, Democrats are going to come out like crazy to vote for it.
Right.
And if the Democratic Party really wanted to hold on to the Congress or take back states, all they have to do is fund these campaign drives to put marijuana use on the ballot in every state, and then put minimum wage on the ballot in every state. And next thing you know, it's a liberal-leaning country, because every person who works for a living is going to go out and vote for the minimum wage. Everybody who believes that the police have too much authority and that the drug laws are ridiculous, and people who just want to use it recreationally will go out and vote for marijuana. You know,
Which is like 80%.
Well, you know, and actually, I did hear that argument, but there were places where Republicans won governorships and big seats, and those were on the ballot, which is exciting for me because it means, you know, that's not hopefully just a one-party dominated idea, you know, because we need to keep people out of jail for stupid reasons, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I heard a whole bunch of cities in Michigan passed it. One was up here, Frankfurt Benzie. They didn't pass it, which is whatever. But
They did or did not?
they did not, because there's a lot of old people up here still. They'll kick off soon, though.
You know, I really see. I guess this is kind of off track a little bit, but Colorado has really, man, they have become this kind of progressive state out in the middle of this very Republican part of the world. But Traverse City is slowly becoming our Michigan's version of Colorado, I think. It seems like they used to be this very conservative part of the state, and they're starting to, the Traverse City area is starting to become a lot more progressive than what they used to. And it's probably because all the old people are dying off, right? But,
Well, you know,
Well, and it's really annoying, to be honest, because you hear about art galleries and stupid shit all the time up here that don't mean shit. You know, art galleries and stupid radios. It's garbage, you know.
well, you
We had
know,
a whole bunch of weed stores up here that shut them down, so I don't know.
the bigger source of Washington, D.C., I mean, you can light up a joint from the White House now, right?
yeah, the thing is, though...
Well, he's been doing it inside.
Yeah, well, obviously, because we have a black...
Come on now.
the
Right?
the problem, though, with Washington, D.C. is their citizens actually, even though they can vote, their vote really means nothing, because...
Kind of like ours.
Yeah, I kind of like the rest of the country.
But I mean, Congress there, though, like the legislature, Congress and the House, or Congress and the Senate, they're the actual... They have the authority over Washington, D.C., so they can pass laws about Washington, D.C. that trump anything the citizens of Washington, D.C. vote for. And it's kind of problematic because there's already Republicans saying that they're going to vote to repeal the citizen ballot initiative that just won in Washington, D.C.
Isn't that incredible? Look at that. Incredible. People say we want this, and you say no, because I'm an idiot. I'm a religious freak. You know what I mean? God damn it. I don't, you know, I'm kind of glad Republicans came in just to stop fascism from overwhelming our country. But, like, at the same time, these guys are such fucking losers, man. Just losers.
Dude, I don't know. I think Republicans are more in line with fascism than Obama is by far. I think the damage that our rights are gonna be interfered with by states, not by the federal government. And the fact that all these states are Republicans, I mean, Michigan now, the Attorney General won re-election and the Governor won re-election. Both of them have gone on the record saying they do not support gay marriage. And so they're denying rights to certain individuals. Both of them have gone on the record saying they're opposed to drug reform and to education reform and all this stuff. And they're literally denying liberties to their citizens. And that's more fascist than anything Obama has done.
Well, I totally agree with all that. I think they're terrible, disgusting bastards. But I mean, there's so many things. We're just like, oh, here's Obamacare. You're going to be one thing that I just can't get over. Maybe you can help me out, honestly. But how can I be penalized for not having health care? It's not a right, even if it should be. It's not anything other than you don't have this, you're penalized. Like, and you're going to take my money, borrow my money? I'm already poor. Why can't you raise my minimum wage? You sure in the hell can charge me more taxes. You sure in the hell can call it a penalty. Why can't you raise my minimum wage? You can sit out there and, try and get your buddy in office. You can spend hours and days and months doing that, but you can't make a speech about raising the minimum wage. You can't talk about taxing corporations through the fucking roof.
Yeah, and he has, unfortunately, he spent all his political capital on Obamacare, though. In the first 2 years, that is the only thing he focused on. He didn't get hardly anything else passed in his first 2 years.
But he can raise capital
was significant.
with his mouth. He can raise capital with his mouth. He can raise capital with his mouth.
And you're right. He could stand up and exactly. I was just going to say that he could use the bully pulpit to get things done, even as a lame duck president.
I hope he goes straight asshole for the next 2 years. I hope he goes straight. I like the guy, I really do, but he hasn't done what he should do and could do. He needs to be a giant asshole and say, fuck corporations, I'm for the people, which I really believe he is, but he hasn't done it yet.
When Bush Sr. was president, he was in, when there was 2 of the years that he was in office, there was a Democrat Senate and House while he was in. And his entire, was it his first 2 years, or maybe it was his second 2 years in office, he vetoed every single bill except for 3. And only like 2 of those vetoes ever came back and had full support from the House and Senate from both parties to override his veto. And right now, that if I was Obama, that's exactly what I would do. I would just veto everything. Veto absolutely everything until the Republicans start playing ball on stuff that's necessary. And because you know what, the first thing they're going to pass up is repealing the health care. That's going to be the first bill that comes across the desk, is repealing health care, Obamacare. And of course he's going to veto it, but
it's unfortunate too.
Can you guys hear me?
We can now. Yeah.
Okay, you guys can hear me.
Yes,
all right. So I heard on the news today that.
Welcome, Ray. By the way.
Yeah, thank you. I heard today on WJR, which is a Republican kind of focused program, conservative talk show. Anyway, they're talking about how they're going to try to repeal the Healthcare Reform Act. But today in President Obama's speech, he had said that he will not. He will veto any bill that comes to his desk trying to,
repeal or scale back.
Yeah, exactly. So, so even though President Obama made this law, it can't be changed. And Scott, it is a tax. It is a tax.
It doesn't make sense.
Well,
it doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe
I'm just not getting it, honestly. Maybe I'm not getting it, but I don't understand how.
It is a tax. It is a tax, and the Supreme Court even said, the government's calling it a penalty.
Sure they did, but they also said you could kill babies.
No, hold on. The Supreme Court
That's
said
another idea.
that, yeah, the government is calling it a penalty, but in all reality, it's a tax. The Supreme Court admits that it's a tax. Everyone knows it's a tax. And
How is-
no
I
one's.
mean,
But what they're looking at is when we look at to make Affordable Care Act work and be cheap enough for everyone involved so that the insurance companies aren't losing millions and millions of dollars, poor insurance companies. In order to do this, the compromise was to make people pay for services even if they fail to sign up for health care. And that is what the health insurance companies wanted as part of this deal. Otherwise they wouldn't. Because that
Is there
tax
anything
actually goes
else I'm
to the.
paying for that I don't use? Is there anything else I'm paying for that I don't use or won't use?
Well, yeah, you already pay taxes on your property. You pay taxes on.
Use it?
But you do use the healthcare though, even though you don't think you do. The fact that everybody, all the kids around you, and other people, they're getting inoculated and they're getting vaccines. The fact that the general health and welfare of citizens has improved dramatically. We are benefiting from other people around us being healthy, even if we never go see a doctor ourselves.
Sure.
We benefit
I've
from
already
other
seen-
people using.
When I check my paycheck, I see Medicaid and I see Medicare. I'm not quite certain that I'm not able to use those. So now I'm paying for a third thing that I am technically not using.
Have you signed up for Medicaid or Medicare or tried to?
I can't get Medicare or Medicaid. No, I have tried to sign up for them. I'm as poor as you could get. I've been that way for quite some, except for about 3 years.
I'm pretty poor too myself.
Well,
Yeah. You know,
Barely have a job.
and I mean, it's like, seriously, if you have a job, you're not going to get it. Depending, maybe this is wrong.
Well, you know,
but I
the Democrats are fighting for the single-payer system, which would have included both of you, but unfortunately they had to compromise on this Obamacare bullshit.
yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. If you want to do that, that's fine. But why? I'm already paying for health insurance for that I can't use.
And here's
Two
the thing
different
is,
kinds.
I think this is what Scott's argument is that Obama 2 years where he had a Congress and a Senate that were Democrats while he was president. That was the first 2 years of his presidency. In that amount of time, he should have passed legislation that would make serious changes to society, not just these makeshift, patches, if you will. So real serious reform. The problem is he couldn't convince the Democrats to vote for single-payer universal health care.
And I can't imagine why. Is it because they're corporately owned by health insurances and lawyers
Exactly.
and other things?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Could
The
be
insurance,
that.
the insurance companies.
People keep voting this way. People
Yeah.
keep voting for these parties. It's absurd.
And we have, like, in the Senate where at the time there was only 51 Democrats, and 2 of those Democrats or 3 of those Democrats were really Republicans that just were calling themselves Democrats to get elected. These blue dog Democrats. So even though they sided with the Democrats whenever they were begrudgingly sort of manhandled into it, for the most part, these are people who believed in the Second Amendment, or were opposed to abortion, were opposed to gay rights, and they were opposed to taxes. So anything that the Republican Party really lined up with, they personally lined up with, even though publicly they claimed they were Democrats.
Here's a question you guys might know, because you've studied this issue more than I might have in the last few years. How is it legally possible for them to deny gay marriage? How is that not a constitutional right?
Well,
That's a religious issue.
I mean, that should have been covered under, like, the Civil Rights Act of 1960.
That's what I mean. I'm like, I can't conceive of a way legislatively or mentally or obviously human being caring wise way, but like, how could that possibly not? How can that stand up against a legal argument for a civil right or a? I mean, that's like the right to happiness. I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
and
right to
you know
I
the
really
Supreme
can't.
Court agrees with you when the Defense of Marriage Act. The Supreme Court agrees with you, Scott. When the Defense of Marriage Act went up before them, they said it was unconstitutional. And the Defense of Marriage Act was the government recognizing a one-man, one-woman marriage. And the problem is they don't. The way that law was written only referred to federal government's recognition of it, and so the federal government recognizes gay marriage.
Right.
It's just
No,
the individual states don't, and so now what has to happen is every state has to take their someone in the state has to take the law to the Supreme Court and say that it violates their federal rights. Law violates their federal rights.
That's
And,
what I was missing. Is that point? It's collapsing everywhere. I just wondered how it's even possible to argue that in a state court. But I guess if that's worded federally, then you have to chip away at it that way.
Yeah, and you know, though, it should have been, you know, the Supreme Court when they handed down their Defense of Marriage Act, they handed down a very weak argument, or not a weak argument, but a weak opinion, and their opinion didn't really go very far. It just said it's illegal. Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutionally federally, but what they should have said, and that's the law of the land, it would have automatically made all the states' bans against gay marriage illegal as well.
And that's
But they
what I
didn't
thought
say
it
that.
did. That's why I was like, how can they still be? How are we still dealing with this issue? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Well, okay.
It is crazy. I mean, it's 2014, and we're still talking about this shit. Like,
Well, you know, I mean,
Hey,
all these
we're-
religious freaks.
What we're doing is
everywhere.
we're dividing the country, guys. United we stand, divided we fall. And for some reason, somebody wants us to fall.
Republicans.
Well, I mean,
No, I think both sides want us to fall so that they can start something new.
No,
well,
I don't
think
think they
just-
want.
want
I don't
to take
know if they
make
want
money
the
off the
government to
division.
collapse, but
They make money off of division. That's how they make money.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the banks. Banks have never been this strong in America's history.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. You got Obama in there, and everybody's kissing his goddamn shoes. But the clown could have done so many things. He's not doing shit. He's not doing what he should be doing. He's got the biggest chair on the planet Earth. He should be up there saying, "You're a clown. You're a criminal. You're a
He's just
criminal."
riling everybody up, man.
Or he should be.
Playing every
Rile
side.
everybody up. Burn this place
That's why.
down.
That's why I think he like he's wishy-washy. You know, he'll say one thing and then he'll say another, and then just appeasing different sides of the
well,
thing.
I don't know about that, Ray. He's not known to be a flip-flopper. He's pretty stable, and the problem is he takes almost too long to pick a side, and then when he does, the argument's already over with. And,
That might be. That's actually a valid explanation. That's a good point.
he just doesn't. And that was the problem with when he was after he got the Obamacare passed.
It's not aggressive enough.
Yeah, he wasn't aggressive enough in selling it, and people said, you're late to the argument because the day you passed it or signed it, you should have been on every single news outlet, and you should have been on every news outlet for the next 2 months, convincing the public that it was the best thing for America, and
Well, you know who I'm actually excited about? I have been since I seen her on. Is Elizabeth Warren. I really
Oh,
hope
yeah.
she's the next. I hope she's the next Democratic nominee. I pray she is over that. Hillary Clinton. God's
I don't
sake.
think she will be because I think she's too left.
But I don't know. Though. I don't know. I pray to God she is.
And people are gonna,
People hate Hillary.
we're gonna get a
Republicans
Republican.
hate Hillary.
I know, but we're gonna get a Republican president. It's pretty much since Kennedy, we've gone, or since Eisenhower, really, we've gone Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. And, with the exception of Bush Sr. Throwing it off, that's what we're going to end up having is we're going to end up having a Republican.
Does anybody know Paul Ryan's stance on gay marriage?
Who?
Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's opposed to it. Now Rand Paul is actually supportive of it.
I could vote for Rand Paul. I could. I don't know if it's a good idea, but I could.
Rand Paul wants
to. He's amateur.
Yeah, but he also wants to defund education.
Well, that's all right.
Defunding education? Oh, hell no. And then let private companies take it over? Every private company that has taken over education has ended up failing and defrauding their own investors, and hell no. And not educating the students.
No. Kind of like colleges now, a little bit. Hey, let's keep jacking up your tuition, and then when you get out, you won't have a job.
Well, I mean, tuitions are getting jacked up. The colleges aren't doing it by choice. Back in '85...
Well, they're lacking funding.
Yeah, back in '85, the state paid about 80% of the entire college's budget. Today, the state pays only about 10% of a college's entire budget. So, the college has had to start getting money from the students rather than from the state, and that's why our tuition is skyrocketed.
What happened to Mitch McConnell? We never did talk about why he's holding his gun. It's not smoking.
Mitch McConnell. Now we officially have a Senate leader who doesn't believe in climate change.
Hey, I'm all for climate change. I believe in it, and I'm for it.
If I live in northern Michigan, I'd be down with climate change too. Warmer. But
I want to grow some more varieties of grapes up here.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you, Gary, tell me this, since you've been living in the South now for a while. Would you rather deal with cranking your heater up in the wintertime or cranking your AC up in the summertime?
Well, you motherfuckers in Michigan didn't even get a summer. Like, it went from, like, kind of cold to fucking cold. Like, I'm not cool with that, man. Like, my fiance Jess, she'd love to move to Michigan, and she kind of likes the colder weather. Man, not a fucking chance, dude. I'm not dealing with that shit.
It ain't that bad. You're just being a douchebag. You lived in Marquette, dude. You were screwed. You lived in Marquette. You're tainted.
Dude, you guys are getting Marquette weather. You guys are getting Marquette weather in like Traverse.
Yeah, and look at me. I'm not crying about it like a little bitch, and I'm not even Georgia.
But you're psycho, dude. Like, you're fucking half on the ledge. Like, I don't feel like
that's
that.
because I'm half Brevard. What'd you expect?
Well, you've always been half on the ledge, but...
That's what then you're going to blame it on the snow?
That's a bad point, but...
I am not a snow person at all. I absolutely hate it. I lived for 3 years in North Carolina, and totally got acclimatized to the very mild winters they had down there. And last year's winter up here just fucking sucked donkey ass. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. It was the worst winter I've ever had in my life, and I told my wife there's no way we're dealing with another 25, 50 years of this shit.
That's why you need climate change in the positive range.
Dude, but, I don't know. It's just...
Polar bears are swimming. Who gives a damn? They live in Hudson Bay, too.
I love the Great Lakes. I love Lake Michigan, especially up near Muskegon area and Ludington area and whatnot. Absolutely beautiful. But I tell you, I could tell that in the summertime, but in the winters they're just too cold for me. I want to be a snowbird right now. I want to do what my parents do right now.
I hate the winter, and if it were up to me, I'd move to where my brother lives in Virginia. But I can't see that ever happening. So I'm just gonna have to deal with what I got. So
Well, yeah,
Well, you know
and
what? If you listen to this guy,
would say it would.
McConnell, there's no such thing as climate change, and you guys are just fine.
I'm just fine either way. As long as I'm around people I like, I'm good. You know?
Yep.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
but-
Have you guys ever seen any of those maps that show what will happen if climate change continues and how the ice caps will melt on the North and South Pole and how much water our coastlines will end up having?
I think it's beautiful.
I think
Florida,
Nothing like a new-
Florida completely disappears.
Hey, I'm okay with that, by the way.
Actually,
Nasty.
I had a friend who literally, like, this is not a joke. He bought property in Okeechobee, Florida, which is in Central Florida, because after he saw Al Gore's movie, he figured that would be like where the new coastline was.
He's gonna have to hold on to it for about 100 years before that happens, though. Even at the rate we're going now with climate change, that'll still take about 100
Well,
years.
you know, I figure if we keep voting in Republicans, we should be able to speed up the process.
Yeah, that's yeah, we should do that. New York would disappear, LA would disappear, Washington D.C. would disappear, so
You
would
know,
Boston.
Zach, you're not helping our
Don't
case.
care.
So, now,
Yeah.
Zach, you're not helping the case at all. dude. Oh, you
what
see-
I add, though,
not all the
like
gangsters
Democrats-
and senators.
what I add in one way that I'm thinking is Democrats are union people. Union people run factories. Like, how does that work? What's the difference?
Well, you know, we can still work at the factories. We can just ask our bosses to make our factories more green friendly. You know.
Yeah, that'd be great, because then they still won't raise my minimum wage. Oh, sorry, we have to buy solar
We
panels.
have to buy this filter for our stack.
Yeah.
Yeah, your raise went to the solar panels on the roof. Have a nice day. Oh, you don't like it? Go work in town.
By the way, I'm gonna need you to work through your lines.
Yeah.
Jesus. Might as well start making condoms so it doesn't feel so bad. What's the story of Mitch McConnell with the gun, by the way? Because honestly, I think it's really awesome.
Well,
Is that a
you know,
handgun? Was he, by the way, behind him on the stand? Because it sure looks like.
Well, basically,
Oh, no,
it's a true
that's
American
actually-
hero.
look at that.
These are the-
No, this is actually a really good point. That's holding up a whatever the fuck teleprompter. It looks like a handgun. Though.
Yeah, it does.
That's so beautiful.
You know, look at that guy. I don't think he's ever shot a gun in his life. I mean, he just looks
I think
like the
I
softest
think
little,
he swallowed a
cuddliest.
load.
No, but he's taking millions
wanna-
of dollars from the NRA.
I
So.
just want to pitch his cheek. And,
This is a rifle.
Our NRA, the NRA is the only hope we have against a tyrannical government, my name.
yeah, right.
For real.
Dude, Wayne LaDouche would never be able to organize shit.
Isn't that funny how
Idiot.
everybody in the NRA probably hates the French except for me? And called LaPierre. What the fuck? Dude.
Miss McConnell, a rifle. Hey, you roll for me.
You know what would happen to Mitch McConnell if he shot that rifle?
I don't
Probably
know.
fucking it'd break his shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say might
You
fix
remember,
everybody.
Gary, when we were in college, when 9/11 came out shortly after, there was an Arab in a full robe and he was shooting an AK-47 in a gun range. And he didn't know what he was doing, and it came back and it hit his face and it smashed the glass and he's crawling and screaming Arab on the floor. Remember that video? I know you do. Somewhere inside.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know? That's Mitch McConnell. He's just like, oh, oh.
I'd say it might fix his everybody.
Oh, it scuffed my suit. Oh, that's all right. The Chinese will send you another one.
Well, gentlemen, I know I'm not leading today's session, but we are well over our hour.
That's a good point. It's been a pleasure. Let's fucking sign off. It's good talking to you guys. You know, if the world's still alive, our next one next time.
All right.
Gary and I
See you
go
guys.
after this.
Peace.
It's called vomiting in Paris.
I'm out.
Adios.